So we have the pleasure of welcoming Chris Wagner to the Birmingham Power BI meetup. So Chris needs to go at 8, so we're going to make a start sharp. Chris is not only a Microsoft MVP, but he also runs the very popular KratosBI YouTube channel, so you might have come across some of his videos. So because we are here on the clock, I'll hand over to Chris. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you guys so much. Can you guys hear me? Oh, no, I can't hear you. What was that?
Yes. I'll put you on mute.
Can you guys hear me? Yes? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah? All right. Okay. Well, we got a lot to go through here tonight. I want to make sure we pump everybody up. This is an exciting talk. Frankly, I've been working on this for like 6 years. This is the first time that I'm demoing it live in public. So you're about to see some secret sauce that we're talking about here. Because most people, who here, can I see a raise of hands? Who knows what a perspective is? Oh, that's actually pretty good. All right, rock on. All right, nice to meet everyone. My name is Chris Wagner, Microsoft MVP, Director of Data Solutions, Baker Tilly. You can find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, over on my website, all that good stuff. But none of you guys care about any of that stuff. We are going to be going through these 6 examples or topics tonight. This is mostly code. So please, if I skip over one of these things and as I'm flying through this, please let me know. There is a lot I'm going to be covering inside and giving a demo on these items. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware. We're going to be talking about what a perspective is. I'm going to show you how we can create a perspective in Power BI. I'm going to show you how we can use a perspective in Power BI, what the common use cases are. I'm going to show you how you can use it with a custom visual or for customizing visuals. I'm going to show you how to use a perspective to build a composite model, and then I'm going to show you how to build a mini model with perspectives. And really, we up the difficulty levels as we go along in each of these, but there's some really insanely powerful things you can do with each one of these. So before we jump over to code on these 6 items, anyone have questions? Yes, no, great. Then we are just going straight to code. So I'm going to stop. Oh, stop sharing. I'm going to share my actual desktop here. All right, can you guys see my screen? I presume yes, it's good. Okay, great. So perspectives is something you're not going to find natively inside of Power BI. In fact, if you go into Power BI Desktop and you go to build or manage a model, you're not going to find any buttons inside of here that allow you to create or manage a perspective. It's just something that can be done. This is straight up pro dev content. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how and where I use perspectives inside my Data God Model V2 dataset. In order to do that, I'm going to use either Tabular Editor 2 or Tabular Editor 3 to be able to get that information out and to be able to add that in. I'm going to use Power BI Premium XMLA connectors in order to do that. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to go over to, oopsies. I'm going to go over to my Tabular Editor 3. Hang on a second here. I got file, open model from database. Oh, and I got that in there already. Go ahead, click OK. I'm going to open this up. Yes, this is the model I want to open. Okay. Now, perspectives is something that, unless someone knows about an enhancement inside of Tabular Editor that I don't, you need to have a macro for that. Okay. Now, the good thing about perspectives is I have a couple that I've already defined, and I'm going to show you what they do. So if I look at my model, this is my AdventureWorks model. I've got a whole bunch of different fact tables in here. You can see there's quite a bit here. All right. If I hone in on my reseller sales, you'll see that my perspective limits the objects that I'm seeing or exposing for consumption. Okay. What this does, it makes it easier for users to come in and look at the information inside my model. So if I'm managing an enterprise model, and let's say I have, I don't know, 500, 600, 700 tables inside my model, which is something that's in larger models is not out of line. A perspective can really help me focus in on a specific topic. Okay, now I've got this one already programmed. I'm just gonna like wait a minute, not all, go back to everything. I'm gonna create one just so you can see how I can do that. Okay. In order to do that, I'm going to leverage one of my macros out there, and I'm going to leverage something called a perspective editor. Now, all right, this perspective editor is available out at, or the code to launch and generate this is available out at Discover EI's or Discover BI's, or no, I'm sorry, Elegant BI's website. It's really quite nice. This little macro's out there. You can click run, and this will generate a script. And oh, Elegant BI, yep, right here. You can either create a new perspective, which is what we're going to do. So go ahead, create it, and I'm going to call this one Internet Sales. All right, and inside my Internet Sales, inside my Internet Sales perspective, I want to have my Internet Sales information. I want to make sure that I have, and as you can kind of see here, my facts on my Internet Sales includes the fact table itself, as well as I've got aggregates on this model. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm including both of these inside my perspective so I don't cause any problems. Then I'm going to add in the additional tables that would be inside of that would be relevant for this perspective of Internet Sales, which is going to be all of my product values, my date dimension, my customer dimension, and I think my geography dimension. Once I've done, I hit create perspective, and you'll see I've got a new perspective over here. If I close this out, I can go over to my perspectives. I can go and select just the Internet Sales. And you can see that that list of items I have on the side here really dips down. Okay. It's great if you're managing different teams of analysts who are coming in trying to use this information. This can be exorbitantly helpful. What was I going to see? Okay, so that's it. I use it to create a perspective. Now we want to use it. So once I save this out to my model, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this out into my model. Right, that's going to deploy that out onto the script. Now, what I can do is I can go into my Power BI desktop, and I've got a few options here. In fact, I'm going to actually, well, we'll do it the easy one first. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to actually go and a little trick here. You have to go in through analysis services to see your perspectives today. They unfortunately don't bring this forward, so I'm just going to go out. I'm going to connect to my model. I'm going to connect live to it. Come on now. Hello, computer. Oh, come on now. Let's try this again. Oh, you are stinky. Don't save. All right, let's start another Power BI desktop. Come on. All right, I'm going to go out again, go to Get Data, Analysis Services, paste in my link, click on OK. Oh, the demo gods are not with me today. All right.
Can you import, Chris?
What's that?
Can you import instead of connect live?
No, I don't think that would, because import will then ask me to connect and actually import all the data in, and that's something I want to do here. So yeah, you want to connect live to this information. Well, okay, I don't know why that's not working. We'll try one more time. If it doesn't, we'll go over to this one, and we'll show you how we can use that on the next slides. One last time. Because the whole idea is you want to see a subset of the model to start to work with it, and you don't want to import it. You want to leave it out on the model itself, right? So that, you know, you're not managing multiple models in this case. You just want to have that one. You know what? Maybe I have this URL. Let's try. Let's go grab that again. Workspace settings, premium, copy, paste. Okay. Really? Well, always when you're given a demo, right? Okay. Well, this is very disappointing. I suppose I could go to Management Studio. Oh my gosh, I don't have Management Studio installed. I'm having a rough day here. Okay. All right. So I guess that part we'll have to just fake it. So you can see that I have my whole model here in tabular editor. I just have when I filter down to internet sales, I just have my subset, right? But I can go back to everything that's in my model. Okay. Now, when I'm using my model and I'm building out a report, the big thing that most people use when they start to use perspectives, or the reason they get into it, is they've created a custom visual for people to work with, right? Or they've created a report, but they know that this visual isn't something that every user wants to see. Like some users want to have like a scatter chart or something else as a visual on their report. Okay. So when that occurs, they go into options and settings. They go into report setting. They go into, report settings. My gosh, where did this go? Review features? No. Oh yeah, report settings. Wrong report settings. Allow end users. Where is it? I moved it. They went over. You enable personalized visuals. Allow report readers personalized visuals to suit their needs. Okay. What this means is when this report gets published out into the service, which I've got reported out here, right? I can have the default bar chart that's here. Oh my, what are you doing? Are you not responding now? Okay, here we go. I've got the default bar chart that's here, or I can go in and I can customize this. Now, this personalization, super useful, but if I want to change the type, I want to give my user some additional information or different ability to search through here. Maybe I don't want all 750 tables here available to them. In fact, maybe I even want to have it be very limited numbers of measures that they have, right? Like I want them to have a very customized experience here. A perspective allows me to go in and be very selective in like what attributes I'm going to show. So in this case, I don't want them to see all of the employee attributes that are available because they're just, you know, it's a front end user. I want them to just come in and be able to make some very basic changes to this. But I do want to give them some things that they can add in, right? So we'll do freight, and I want them to add in something along the lines of reseller sales amount, and the value. I do want that broken out by, let's say, employee address, right? Now, maybe this isn't necessarily the best one that's available, but you know, something along these lines is what I want. I do the same ones. Oh, I did do the exact same ones. Right. Really? None of that changes the. Okay, well, whatever. I wanted to give them the ability to make some changes to this. Now what that employee can do is they can go in and say, okay, this is the visual I prefer over the standard visual. I want to see this on a regular basis. So I'm going to add this in as my scatter chart V2. And you know what? I want this to be the default view when I go back to this page. So every time I come back in, I'm always going to see this visual when I go to the report. So if I don't like whatever the visual is that people are that the authors have published, I just disagree, I'm able to go in and create this custom visual for me to interact with. Okay. You may find that this is incredibly useful, especially if you're serving large organizations that have a wide variety of people who have many different needs. Okay. They can always go back. They can always hit reset and go back to the default view. But because they selected this as their personal default, it's always going to be their. It will always be their default until you eliminate or you remove that default setting there. Okay. Now, this is all great. You think, wow, that's an interesting way to limit that down. But what about the deployment side? Like, what are the other use cases for this? And the big use case that I like is the different data sets. Although it's going to be interesting because we're going to need that XML endpoint to work this time. We get an error, we're going to have a problem there. Okay, so I'm going to create. I just created it and it works. So let's see if we can go back in and try it out again. Okay, it worked in this case. So I'm going to leave that open. So this is the end product, but we'll see if we can create it from scratch. What I've defined here, and you could actually go to transform. What is it? Or data source settings? Oh, interesting. Add local model, go to transform. Oh, this is okay. Here we go. Connect to my data, perspectives, and I can go in and I can select that I just want to have my reseller model in this case. So I'll hit submit, and now it's going to quote unquote load this into my composite model. And then what I could do from here, I could actually even go into like entering data, so I could create a test and hello world. I could create a subset of a data model. So if I want people to have a customized experience in the analyst building out content, like I want them to be able to really focus in on a single subject, I can actually allow this to be created or create this composite model. Apply changes, publish this out to the service, and then give people the ability to build off of this model. Okay, so my analysts will be able to just go in and say, hey, you're the sales team. I want the sales team to be able to go in and build out content. They can go right into the sales model. Oh my gosh, why am I? Hello. Not hit apply changes. Well, they can just go right into the sales reseller composite model and just build content for the reseller reports, right? Then they don't have to worry about if they're building something, especially if you're talking about like an external facing or something that might be shared externally. Really? Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. Like now, if you're sharing this externally, you probably want something more than this. In fact, let's talk about what that would be. But let's say you're just doing presentations, like a sales team creates presentations for people they embed in PowerPoint, and you don't ever want people to accidentally pull in content from other areas of the organization. And as a safety guard, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, for your PowerPoint embedding, what we want as a protocol to just use this perspective, this model, in order to build out your data sets. Okay, so then they can build reports that sit on top of that data set, and they don't have to worry about all these wonky, perspective connections and everything here. But you said, Chris, what about that added security that you talked about wanting to have so that you could, deploy it to different areas or different groups? Or what if, and this is really the big aspect, what if you really wanted to have one source of truth for an entire organization? In other words, you didn't want your organization to have different measures, different dimensions, different load schedules, different cadences around how the information was shared or updated, but you needed to have all of your information, your code stored in one place with the different hubs and organizations or different data owners in your organization be able to contribute and build upon that, which in some companies is something that they've asked for. That's where perspectives come in place. And this is actually directly from Microsoft's Starlight architecture that has been up and running for, I think, about 8 years now. Is anyone familiar with the Starlight architecture? Nope. Okay, that is fantastic. The idea is Microsoft, for all of their enterprise reporting, and that is for all 160,000 some odd employees that they have one galactic tabular enterprise model that is stored and managed locally, with different teams that are able to contribute to it, that are able to own their portions of the code base. And then it's they're able to be granted access to different areas of that model, so that when the sales team updates the sales measures and the sales metrics, that's equally and easily applied to everyone in the organization. Same thing with HR, or when Xbox updates something, or when the Power Platform team updates their measures, their models, their content, that gets all implemented inside of this one space, inside the singular code base. And that's all done through this shortcut, which is the mini model builder. All right. Now, again, this is some code that came from Elegant BI. Michael Kowalski is the engineer who built, managed, and designed all of this code base, and he built these little applications to help manage these models for distribution inside their organizations. This is really a high value and add to a lot of organizations, especially like that are big, like Microsoft, or financial institutions who where the executives are sick of going into sales meetings and seeing different sales numbers from every department, every unit, every team, and the conversation's just around data and not around what's going on inside the business. Okay. But you run the mini model generator, and allows you to go in and create these mini models. Now, Microsoft has, and I kind of like this, a standard of prefacing any mini model with a dollar sign. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to call a dollar sign, and we're going to call this because I have the internet one. We'll just call it Internet 2. So we're going to save that inside our mini model builder. Now, this is increasingly important to make sure that you're always adding in the relevant things. we make sure that we select the items, and before we go into any page, we're always clicking save as we go through. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly add in a handful of items again. Hit save. I'm going to go on to the next one. Now, there are things we may want to hide or unhide as we're going through this. Mini model allows you to continue to do that. So if you want to hide anything that's custom on a mini model, so maybe you need to have access to the content inside a model that's going to get deployed out, but you don't want to showcase this or share this with other people. Or let's say in your version of a mini model, you're going to change the definition of something because let's say a sales commission amount or sales definition needs to be excluded, or a commission amount needs to be excluded for tax or auditing purposes, something along those lines, right? You can go in and customize those from your mini models. Likewise, entirely possible if you're talking about a large model, this model's too big to be deployed or managed any one place. So you would want to then potentially eliminate or remove partitions that are in use in some cases, right? So you have, let's say, a fact table that has 20 years of history in it, but for the purposes of one mini model for a different team, they only want to see the last 2 years. You can go ahead and do that. Same thing is true about removing perspectives. We're not going to do that here. Or update any partitions. Same thing with roles. Maybe you want to have customized security roles that are available. That's something you could do. Same thing with row level security, and as well as sources. So maybe in a mini model, you want to source from a different source system, or you could make those changes here as well as any other. Somehow I skipped over filter. Any other modifications can be done and kept within the mini model. Now, as we went through, you can make all these customizations, store these inside the model, and then it's kept inside that metadata for usage. Now you say, okay, Chris, this is all well and good that we've saved this here. How would I use this? Because I wouldn't want to necessarily just store this out on the server, right? You've said that the model is too big for this. That's exactly right. And that's where, instead of saving this out into the server, this is where we save the model to a folder. And we begin to manage our models through folders that we're going to be managing our code through, and assigning different teams the ability to access and manage the code that's in the folders, the subfolders within this repo. Just like you would if you're managing separate parts of an application, or one application that you're managing more broadly or through different teams. So what we're about to do is we're about to delete out all of the objects from our model. So this script is going to delete everything from our model that isn't in that reseller category. So that could be inclusive of measures, it could be inclusive of tables, joins, partitions. Everything that is not part of this reseller model will get deleted out of this model. So it's very important, once I run this script, that I do not save this back to my code repository, or I'm going to lose, I'll have lost everything else in my model. Okay. So this is my reseller sales 2. So what we're about to see is, you see all this content here. It's about to become my reseller model. So it's going to go to this. Okay. So we'll go back to what it was. I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And it deleted everything that was not inside my model here. Okay. Now to deploy this, let's go to model, deploy. Out to the server, I'm going to choose what instance it's going to deploy to. And I'm going to call this one my reseller model. All right, I'm going to deploy my model. I'm going to deploy it. It's going to deploy out there. It's running, running, running. Once that gets deployed, this is just like any other model. Now I have separate, I do have separate code or deployments that I do have to refresh separately. Okay, so that's kind of the con of this model, but it's also the pro. So if your model is too large, right? It's, you know, let's say you have a P1 and your model's now over 25 gigs. This can allow you to separate that out so that you have enough, you know, you can deploy it to two different workspaces or two different models and build your reports accordingly, right? But I have to go in, I've got to define my gateway, apply it, schedule my refresh, yes. All that good. Go back into my workspace and hit refresh on this. Now I've got two models that are out there and I have complete customization on this. Now, really? Oh, haha. Yeah. The other PC that that one connects to is what crashed. So that would be why that went offline. So, oh man, this is a rough day. So yeah, I would have to refresh that, and if my other PC was up, that would refresh, and I'd be just fine. But that does allow me to have my separate models. Now in Fabric, as soon as I can convert this over to using Direct Lake, I won't have to worry about refreshing my models because now I can just have those separate connections pointing back to that one file and still be good to go, right? So all of this would just refresh and I'd be up and running. Gosh, dang, that's a doozy of a problem here. All right. I guess I'm on to questions here. I'm sorry about that. Do you guys have any questions about perspectives? Have you used these before?
Thank you, Chris. I'll go first if I may. Thanks for the presentation, Chris. We don't see this being discussed enough.
Oh,
So
I'm not hearing you. Hold on. Try that again.
any better?
A little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So the question was, you showed the main feature of perspectives is that you can show and hide elements like tables and measures and such. Would you say that's a security feature, or is that the role for row level security?
Perspectives are specifically not a security feature. Users will still have access to the rest of the model with the perspective. They may not know it, you know. So unless you call security through obscurity security, and maybe in some organizations you can get away with that. If you're talking banking, healthcare, GDPR, that won't cut it. But some places do call that security. You start to get into a layer of security when you go to that second step where I created a separate Power BI data set that has that is filtered down to that perspective. Now, technically, they still need to have read on that back to the full data set. Again, you're now just adding in layers of obscurity around what people are accessing, what people are doing. That might get you some additional security there, but not officially security. The last step that I showed with the mini model, that 100% adds in security, because what you've done is you've now deployed a separate model that you can secure read, you could secure build permissions on completely completely separate from that master model build.
Great, thanks, Chris. More questions?
Hi, Chris. Rajesh.
Yeah.
How's it going? Okay, just a quick one. If you've mentioned Starlight model and how that can help organizations, and Microsoft have been using it, how do you go about starting something like that?
So that is a fantastic question. Microsoft started that with Satya Nadella, getting tired of walking into meetings and seeing different metrics in every report and realizing that, hey, this is like, they're spending the bulk of their time at that leadership level. I mean, I don't know how many millions of dollars Satya makes a year, but it's more than what I make. And they're wasting enormous amounts of time talking about when was it refreshed, that type, things about data, not about their business. And he put an edict out there and a mandate that all of their teams had to be on this platform, unified platform, for these models, and gave them a 2-year timeline to get on there. The teams that didn't get on the platform, he openly walked out of meetings and wouldn't engage with those business units until they were on that platform. So this is something that is not simple or easy to do and takes a great deal of time and has to come down from the top within an organization. But it is something that, especially if an organization has real concerns around federal requirements or compliance within the law and not making the wrong decisions, this is something that a lot of CFOs and CEOs really strive for. They just have to, be big supporters of it. And when someone asks, can you do this? You have to even know that this is possible to do. So does that answer your question, Rajesh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it just sounds like a lot of hard work and a lot of engineering. So,
It is a lot of work. It's a lot of engineering, and it is not something that most teams will like happily jump on board with. Like, hey, I'm only going to control one aspect of my model. I don't, the part that I own, I only control this piece of. That's hard to do. Microsoft recommended a team of a minimum of 4 developers, 2 data engineers, an analytics engineer, and a data product owner, to help contribute and build out in that stack to make that work.
Thanks, Chris. We have another question here.
Yeah.
I've got 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between this and the data marts in terms of collaboration? What's the advantage of this over like a data mart? And can you hear me?
Yeah, I believe I can. It's the mic is a little distorted on my side.
Yeah, what's the difference between this and a data mart?
Okay, so a perspective is just within the analytical model itself. A data mart is going to be basically a SQL server. So we're talking, what I was showing was our analysis services way to segment out. A data mart is a SQL database way of segmenting things out.
Oh, okay. The second question is the thing you did with the visualization that the end user can play around this. Must it be with perspective? Can I do that if I'm just working in a normal data source? It's because that's actually very useful for someone like me that gives report for lots of people, right? Just giving them the opportunity to like play around the data set themselves. Is it a must that it has to be with the perspective, or can I just use that reports? I don't know what it's called, for normal data sources that I connect to like SQL, Excel, and Business Central and things like that.
So you have to create a perspective in order to assign that. Here, let me show you how you do that. So inside my report, I can define this as filtered to a perspective. You actually do it from the table level. I'm sorry, from the page level. What is going on here? There we go. On this personalized visual here, you can see this. There's a little toggle right here. I've got that model selected here, the reseller sales personalized visual. I can change it to any of the perspectives that I had on there. Right? So you do need to create a perspective in order to do this. But yes, that's I think that might be the only place we really see perspectives show up inside a Power BI desktop. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Do you have time for one more?
I do. One more, quick.
Okay, hopefully this is a very quick one. When you've created a mini model, you've essentially got a separate piece of code base. Is that, am I reading that right? That
Yep.
you end up with two independent bits of code there.
You keep it in one and manage it in one. You deploy that subset of the code base.
Yeah, so if you then change the master model that came from, that doesn't just transfer through, does it?
Not automatically. That's one of the things you have to build into your pipeline so that when that changes, you know, okay, this goes to these 5 models and that change gets deployed out.
Yeah, no, understood. Thank you.
No problem. Sorry that didn't go smoother. I have to jump to a meeting, but thank you guys so much for bearing with me while my computers crash on me. So, thanks,
Thank you very much. Let's give Chris a round of applause. Thank you very much.